Cheryl from Garden in the Burrow here, out back in my favorite spot, only at a different time of day. Not coffee, but Diet Coke, which I heard somebody on social media this week call fridge cigarettes, and I feel like that's probably a very apt description of this. But it's my favorite drink, so there we go. So me and George are just hanging out here. I was working out here in the pool area, and I'm dealing right now with a whole bunch of little trumpet vine that's coming up from all over the ground. And I wanted to talk about my trumpet vine in my confessional because even though that plant, if you said that to most gardeners, trumpet vine, everybody would say, oh, what an aggressive plant. People call it invasive, even though it's a native plant. So it really doesn't fit the definition of invasive, but it certainly is an aggressive plant. And if you have it, you know that it just pops up wherever it wants to live. But sort of behind me this way, the whole side of our pool area, and I'll kind of pan there so I can show you later, and I'll put some clips at the end of our old trumpet vine. There used to be two huge trumpet vines along that fence. And that fence, when we first put our pool in, originally was a wood stockade fence. And that's when the trumpet vine went in, so 20 something years ago. And over those 20 years, I had pruned that thing annually so that it had turned into this big trunk, this big craggy, old looking trunk that had arms coming off each side. And every year I cut off all the new growth, so it went right back to that old trunk. So it was fantastic to look at out in the winter. It's our view right outside our kitchen window. And so you could look out there in the winter and see it was a very structural, architectural looking plant in the wintertime. And we preserved it when we replaced the fence. We left it. And it was, even though it was difficult to take care of, it was a joy because of that, but also the fact that in the summertime, there is absolutely no better plant for pollinators. There just isn't. Hummingbirds live for it. You could see hummingbirds drinking nectar out of it was a yellow variety called flava, and they would drink so much that they would sit and perch on the branches, just swaying back and forth, just drunk on nectar. And so it added, besides the flowers and the structures of the branch, watching the hummingbirds out the kitchen windows, such a fun plant to have there. And I always knew it was aggressive, and I always said if I died, got hit by a bus, then somebody better come right in and cut the trumpet vine down, because it will take over the whole garden. And when we had our patio replaced out here, we had this one sprig of trumpet vine that had kept coming up through our wood deck that used to be here. And that one sprig, every year, in the summer, it would come up, and I would just yank it. Franklin, come here, Frank. Come here, Franklin. I would just yank it, and then it would just disappear. But when they pulled the deck up and went to dig down to put the base for the patio, under that one sprig, and we're talking one little tiny pencil thin branch, was what looked like a tree trunk underground, and that was its root. So I kind of knew in my heart that that's the kind of root system that we were dealing with, and it's very close to our pool, and it probably wasn't a smart decision. It's also very close to our septic tank. And Franklin, come here, buddy. And so I'd often thought about, taking it out for that reason. But then every year, for some reason, and I don't know why, but every year that went by, the wasps and yellow jackets on it got worse and worse and worse. So we'd be out here trying to enjoy a day in August and late July out in the pool area, and you couldn't have anything, a drink or food or anything, because there were two of them, and they were so covered in yellow jackets and wasps that you came out here and that they came, you know, for whatever you had too. So it was kind of scary to be down that end of the pool with all the stinging insects down there. And uh, we 2 years ago decided that we would cut all the flowers on the pool side. So against the fence, it's an open fence. It's like black. People call it wrought iron, but it's got that look, but it's really not made of iron. But we would cut all the flowers off the pool side and just have flowers on the other side. And that helped a little, but it still didn't help, you know, as much as we would have liked it to. And so we've been talking about cutting it down. So last fall, before I could even change my mind, I went out there and I took the chainsaw and I took both of them down. And we chipped them and they were gone, and I was okay with it until then during the winter. Now that structure was gone. And now when we'd have hummingbirds and other insects that aren't yellow jackets and wasps on it, we don't. And the flowers are not there. And that vine also provided kind of a rhythm to the garden. So every fall, it was the first plant I cut down because I cut all the new growth uh, right back to the craggy little trunk that was growing against the fence. Cut those down immediately as soon as after the first frost. And then always, 100% of the time, there'd be birds' nests that had been made in there during the season. So we'd have the trunk and birds' nests to look at through the winter. And then in the springtime, we'd wait for the new growth, which came out very late. So we'd get a lot of time in that sort of architectural phase, and then we'd get the new growth coming. And I miss it. I miss it a lot. And even though right now there's a lot of, from the root system, I've been pulling a lot, and we're going to have to herbicide them so that a new trumpet vine won't form somewhere else, because it's impossible really to kill it any other way. And that root system has got to be massive from the two of them. I just really miss that plant. And we replaced it sort of. I put in the springtime 2 rambling roses. It's a yellow rambler called Teasing Georgia, which is kind of fun because Georgia's my dog, one of my dogs. And they are growing. They're settling in very well, and I'm sure they're going to look beautiful. But it's just not the same. They won't have the same winter presence. They certainly won't be hummingbird attractants over there. We have another trumpet vine out back, so we actually have 4. 2 of the straight species out back, just Campsis radicans with like the orange flowers. And then we had 2 of the yellow variety over here by the pool. But I'll tell you, the hummingbirds 100% preferred the one that was over here to the straight species. And I was toying with digging up maybe one of the new sprouts that's coming up and finding a new home for it. I just know how difficult it is to take care of. So I'm still haven't decided about that. But I really just miss the plant. I really just miss everything it brought to this side garden. So now I'm trying to decide, you know, if I should replant another one somewhere or just leave it the way it is. But I'm going to include some footage in the back that there's a fly around me. I'm going to include some footage of the hummingbirds, some pictures that I've taken of them. I never took any video, but I got some pictures of them and of the trunk itself, and maybe a bird's nest if I can find one. And then I'm just going to mull on, you know, there's so many plants that we take out. When I was going through, I had to look for a plant name, and I was going through, I have a drawer that has it's got plant labels and my blooming records that I keep track of what's blooming in case I have to organize a garden tour and I want to pick a date, so I know I can say pretty confidently what's going to be in bloom here. And looking back at I'm going to guess high hundreds, maybe even over 1,000 different plants over the years that have come and gone, that have either lived their life and been replaced, or that I just outright killed. Um, and I miss a lot of them. I think, of re-adding some of them back in, wondering if it's just that they didn't like it here, or if I was being inattentive and not caring for them well enough, and that's why they didn't make it. But either way, I miss my trumpet vine. So it's one that I'm thinking about whether it's going to be replaced in the garden, or whether we're just going to have it as a very fond memory. You miss any plants in your garden? Let me know. All right, happy gardening. So right there, right behind that blue planter, almost exactly, is where the first trumpet vine was. And then if I pan down a little bit, right behind where our gas grill is over there, that was where the second one was. So by now, we'd have the vine all along the top of this fence, all the way down. So I'm going to include some pictures of some of the hummingbird photos I've taken. And we're just going to hope that the rose makes me just as happy.